everyone, and welcome to Once Upon a Time at the Oscars.
The show that takes you through every Best Picture nominee from 1927 to today.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Ryan.
Which Ryan? The second, third?
You know, if I had to think about the number Ryan that I would be, I wouldn't say that I'm first, second, third, or fourth.
Oh.
But I would say that I'm 5, 6, 7, 8. And I ate it.
Yeah, you did.
We have had so much fun this morning alone talking about Henry VIII, but then like doing like a little like snap like Slay Queen.
Yeah.
Because he ate that.
You did that. And
you commented. I did the pose.
You did the pose.
Ashton, I want you to know right now, I crushed it. Like I did like you make a fist, but then you hold your thumb over your fist.
Yes.
And you hold it up.
Yes.
And I crushed that. And I did it. And the reason I do this is because there's a road called it's Mars Hill Road.
Okay.
It's Mars Hill Road, and there's a sign that says there's construction happening for like the next 7 months. So I'm passing it constantly. But they have to abbreviate it because they can't put all those letters in like the electronic sign. So it says Mrs. Hill Road.
Oh.
And every time we pass it, I'm like, it's Mrs. Hill Road, and I throw like the fist up with the thumb. And Taylor, this is the funniest thing I've ever done, apparently. It's like she's always like clapping, like, do it again. So anyways, I have practiced doing this. So
Mars Hill Road.
Mrs. Hill Road.
Hill if you're nasty.
Mrs. Hill if you're nasty. Yeah, that's almost exactly what I'm doing. We're talking about the private life of Henry.
If you couldn't tell.
The private life of Henry VIII. I feel like do you feel like we're a little delirious? Not so much in today, but like this is our 8th movie of this month, of this year. So
Coincidence? I think not.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Because this isn't like, we didn't just choose this order out of nowhere. This is by release.
Yeah,
So
this was God's order.
This was God's will.
Yeah.
Thanks, God.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you. You ate that. Private Life of Henry VIII. You've never seen this before.
No.
Have you seen a Charles Laughton picture before?
No.
I don't think I have either. So this is the first time for me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even know who he was.
Neither did I. My understanding is this put him on the map pretty well.
Sweet.
And what we're talking about is Charles Laughton, the lead actor of this film who portrays Henry VIII. And I mention him because he is one of 2 nominations for this film. The second nomination, you're not going to believe this, is Best Picture, Outstanding Production. And that is on behalf of London Films. Previously you mentioned Charles Laughton was nominated for Best Actor in a leading role for his role of Henry VIII.
London Films, huh?
It's interesting. I had to do a double check on this to make sure that was correct. That's what I have. And they put them on the map pretty heavily.
This is the first international film nominated for Outstanding Picture, I think.
Not only is it the first non-U.S. film to be nominated for Best Picture, it is also the first time that a lead actor has been nominated for a non-U.S. film.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is a big deal then.
Yeah.
Agreed, man. Yeah, totally.
No, it is. It is a big deal. The movie is a big deal, too. I feel like it's our not first, but it's a very notable period piece that we don't get a ton of.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And this is going to happen time and time again. So I wonder if the reception received for Charles Laughton in this film is part of the reason for that. But a period piece like this is not something we've seen often in what we've talked about, but will be prominent in the future.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't normally think of, like, this doesn't stand out as, a unique period piece because everything takes place like 100 years ago.
Right.
So I'm just like, they're all period pieces now. But you're right. Yeah. This is, of course, in like the 1500s, following Henry VIII. So, yeah.
Let's dive into I was just about to start talking about the movie, and I realized we haven't talked about the cast yet. So let's talk about the cast.
Directed by Alexander Korda. Like you said, stars Charles Laughton as Henry VIII. Beanie Barnes is probably the most prominent female lead in the movie.
I'd agree.
She plays Catherine Howard. And then you have Robert Donnet as Thomas Culpepper. So Henry VIII has historically at least 6 wives.
Right.
He might have more beyond this movie. But in this, he's got 6 wives. So you've got quite a few women here portraying all of his wives. And I figure rather than list them, we'll talk about them as they come up.
As they come up, I think is the best way to do it. The first thing I want to talk about is the opening to this movie. And the opening is a title card. A title card that tells us everything that's happened. I think it's interesting when you think about Henry VIII, the first thing you think about is the multiple wives, right?
Yeah.
And you think about, well, I wonder how it's going to portray, like, him going into like this royalty and then his first wife, and then how that leads to the other wives. And the opening card is like, the first marriage didn't work out. And you're like, oh, okay. So it already establishes that there has been a wife, and now there's a second wife. And also worth noting, the cast card that pulls up, it says the names of the women, but it also labels them as the number wife that they are. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
So first wife, second wife, fifth wife. So Catherine Howard is listed as the fifth wife. Anne Boleyn, played by Merle Oberon, is portrayed as the second wife. Mm-hmm. So this just continues. But the first wife that we actually meet is Anne Boleyn.
Right.
Who is extremely well known to the story.
Absolutely.
Extremely prominent.
And, I think that, like you said, when you think of Henry VIII, you think of the wives. And this is kind of portraying that element of his life kind of as a comedy.
Sure.
That's the intention. Whether it is comical or not, that's what this movie's going for. It kind of takes the man, Henry VIII, and it makes you want to roll your eyes at his character a lot.
Correct. And it's successful in that sense.
Yes. I think I'm sensing a little bit of displeasure in the movie, but I think that comes from us just watching his behavior in this movie and being like, ugh, yeah, it might be trying to be funny, but what are we doing here?
Sure. I mean, if it's intended to be a satire, then I kind of understand, but the tone of it, we just got done talking about 42nd Street and how it can kind of misread the tone a little bit with that final scene with Julian Marsh. And I think this is a similar potential issue for me, is that the tone of the movie doesn't seem to match the tone of the performance for Charles Laughton. So there's I have some questions about that, and we'll get into it. But ultimately, when it comes to the synopsis of the movie, you're right. The ultimate story is starting with Anne Boleyn, his relationship with women, and how that lends him to his relationship with Catherine Howard.
Right. Yeah. And, I mean, we can get into it now. When we're introduced to Anne Boleyn, and really the opening of this movie, it's the day of Anne Boleyn's execution.
The moment that the satire becomes kind of a little clear, and at least what it's trying to convey is that title card, where it mentions that the first marriage didn't work out, and it was an amicable split where there was a divorce. It said the second marriage was not quite so.
Right, and it says the first marriage was to Catherine of Aragon, and it says it didn't work out. She was a respectable woman.
Yes.
And that's why it didn't work out. So, yeah, with Anne Boleyn, it's the day of her execution, and we'll talk about Charles Laughton a lot because he is, without a doubt, the powerhouse of the film. But I do want to talk about Merle Oberon playing Anne Boleyn because she broke my heart in this movie.
I mean, I'm not sure that I wrote it down here, but when I was doing my research, it was noted that a lot of people were watching her performance on set, and were just blown away by. I think one director said, not the director of the film, but one director said that that was the fastest they've ever seen themselves connecting to a person or a character because of her performance. She is great in the movie.
She's so good. And I think it kind of builds a problem in viewing the movie at first because you're hit with that zinger of Catherine was a respectable woman.
And then Anne Boleyn.
Then she shows up and she's like, I'll be okay, right? And she has tears in her eyes.
She says something about it's a shame that such a pretty neck is going to have a rope around it.
Yeah, such a pretty head is going to, I don't know, be removed from their body. It's really sad.
Right.
But she's asking the executioner at one point, is it going to hurt? And he's like, no. It's clean. It's quick. You won't feel a thing. And she says, and I have such a little neck, haven't I? And you're like, oh my God. Please,
because
save her.
The expectation here, and they don't show much, obviously, is the beheading, right? Multiple beheadings, and I mean it's devastating. And this to me, I think, is where the tone of the movie kind of shifts drastically. Is that it doesn't feel like quite a satire. That opening card does, but then you getting to spend that time with Anne Boleyn and hear everything she's saying. At no point is she being. It sounds like she's kind of being jokey about it. But it's never a haha, right? Because I'm being beheaded. It's more can you believe this is something that's actually going to happen to me? This is terrible. And then Charles Laughton appears, and then it's all assumingly humorous satire of his performance.
Right.
And it just feels mismatched to me, and I couldn't get into it. So it was hard to read this movie up front. And I don't mean that as a negative against Merle Oberon, because she is phenomenal.
She's so good.
She's so good. And I think Charles Laughton's even doing a good job for what he's doing, but we'll get to him in a minute. But she's so effective.
Yeah.
And I loved her scenes, even though they were really front-loaded in this. But she's a character, obviously, that is very prominent, but will be talked about through the rest of the story as well.
Yeah, man. And right off the bat, because she's gone so soon, I just felt like the meme of that cat, like reaching out, like, no, come back, because she's so good, and I really loved her.
She is.
But
and that leads us to the introduction of Charles Laughton as Henry VIII.
Man,
it takes a minute. It's like 20 minutes or so before he shows up, right?
It's a little while. And it's kind of similar to the way She Done Him Wrong introduced Mae West, where everybody's kind of chittering about, this big person.
You probably just got me to like Private Life of Henry VIII more, because now I'm just imagining him coming down the stairwell being like, come up and see me sometime.
Man. But yeah, his introduction is kind of like that, where all of the handmaidens are in his bedroom and they're talking like, oh, well, Anne Boleyn's losing her head today, and Jane Seymour is next in line, who's played by Wendy Berry. And they're all kind of just poking fun at the king. And during this chit-chat they're having, Charles Laughton, you just hear his voice boom from the other room, and he's like, what's going on? What are you saying? And the camera turns, and you just see him, like, just like Mae West, really, standing full center frame in, like, his regal attire. And he's just a domineering figure.
He's a domineering presence in this, for sure. Although that shot that you're talking about, I completely agree in the effectiveness of it. However, it did make me think of Revenge of the Sith with Obi-Wan. And the way that Ewan McGregor is standing on the ship. They're like, Obi-Wan isn't going to harm you. And it cuts to him very intimidatingly standing on the doorway. It did look a little bit like that when they introduced Charles Laughton in this. So I thought that was very funny. I immediately was just like, he doesn't mean good for any of these people here. Yeah, so Charles Laughton, obviously nominated for lead actor for his role here. He is going for it.
Yes.
Fully going for it in this. And he's leaning into the horrible nature of this individual and playing him appropriately so. There's a scene I kind of want to jump to before we get much into the story of it. There's a banquet scene. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
His banquet scene where he's eating with like his bare hands. He's eating a rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is meant to not disgruntle, but meant to disturb you and like kind of like catch you off guard. And it's interesting because there's a couple things behind this. One, did you catch this is the first audible belch or burp on screen?
Grand Hotel had, what's his name? Kennick? Krenlick? The drunk?
Krenglin.
Yeah. Kraglin from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Wasn't that more of a hiccup? I didn't think it was like a full-blown belch like this one, like while he's eating.
No. He goes off.
Oh, interesting.
In Grand Hotel.
Well, I'd read this was like one of the first like cited examples of that happening, where it was like the decency board gave this movie a C.
Oh, really?
But the C is like not like, hey, middle of the road. It's more like, I'm trying to think of what the word was for it, but C was like canceled, basically, of like terrible, like absolutely no decency in this. So the belch was a big part of that.
Maybe in the UK.
There you go.
Maybe that's what it was.
That might be what it is.
Yeah.
In the US, we're like, we've been belching. Babe.
Yeah.
Get back on board. But the other side of this, too, is that in my research, I saw that after this movie came out, years after this movie came out, whenever Charles Laughton would go to a restaurant owners would give him a free roasted chicken, but not bring any utensils out. So the expectation was that he would eat the roasted chicken or the rotisserie chicken without any utensils. I gotta imagine if you're Charles Laughton, you're like, funny joke, give me a fork.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just gonna do this for you.
Well, let me ask you this, Ryan.
Yeah.
You show up to any restaurant, you get a free chicken.
Which, rotisserie chicken, so an entire chicken.
Right.
Not just like a leg.
I mean, at what point do you think you'd be like, all right, I'm getting tired of this? Or would you just be like, well, I got dinner for the week?
Taylor loves a rotisserie chicken. So I think she would be like, this is the best thing that your family's ever gotten.
All you got to do is pull off a drumstick and be like, no, yes, you're so funny. Which you eat a drumstick with your hands anyway.
Right, but the
and
problem...
then you just take the rest to go.
To go back.
And Taylor's good.
That's right. However, I don't know if she would love that the implication of me getting this rotisserie chicken is that I played a character and I'm now portraying that same character, calling back that same character who has his wives beheaded.
It's a free chicken, Ryan.
You're doing the Tim Heidecker, it's free real estate. It's free chicken. Yeah, I'm sure she'll agree with you. Absolutely zero issue. Hi, babe. So, I mean, clearly some memorable things done for this role.
Sure.
I guess it's a good time to go ahead and say, I did not care for this movie. I did not care for this overall. It was a difficult movie for me to grab onto, and it is a performance-led movie. This movie is the performance of Charles Laughton as Henry VIII. And I think my problem is that it feels like the movie wasn't quite confident in what it was trying to say versus what Charles Laughton was trying to do. Mm-hmm. And it felt more like we captured this performance on screen and less what the movie was trying to say. So the majority of the movie is that we see the inner workings of Henry VIII navigating marriages.
Yeah.
Who he wants to be married to, who can challenge him, how much he wants to be challenged, if he does really want to be challenged, and how he wants to rule. And even ruling kind of comes secondary in story and to his character. It's mostly just like who his companion is at the time.
Yeah.
And the person that's always on his mind throughout the movie is Catherine.
Right.
Catherine is someone that he sees. However, she has a relationship with Thomas Culpepper, who you mentioned was portrayed by Robert Donat. Yeah. So this is kind of the majority of the movie. The only thing that to me was like, oh, now we're cooking, is at one point he finds himself in a relationship with Anne of Cleves. Cleves? I think Cleves.
Yeah, I think it's Cleves.
Anne of Cleves, who was his fourth wife.
Right. With Jane Seymour. What happened with them? I don't even remember what happened to Jane.
Jane was kind of brought over, and he was like, oh, cool. Well, I don't think this is going to work out. I don't think she was there's any infidelity.
No.
What
Because
did
there would have
happen
been
with
a
her?
beheading. Yeah, I really don't remember. I think they just split. They had like a divorce.
That's right, because there's two divorces technically in this that we see. The first one
Right.
we just hear about.
It was Catherine.
So that was Jane Seymour's character, and then Anne of Cleves. So
Yes.
Anne of Cleves is played by Elsa Lanchester.
Yeah, she is.
Let's talk about this. So with Elsa Lanchester, she actually was married to Charles Laughton. In 1929 is when they got married, and they were together for a very long time. So in this movie, they've been married for 4 years already.
Yeah.
The actors have. Their chemistry was explosive.
It's not like your typical romantic chemistry.
Where you're like, oh, I can see these two people together. They were destined to not work out. But their
Yes.
chemistry is still so good because he wants to be challenged, but she wants to find the way to which she can get out of this marriage very quickly and have some money. Right?
Exactly.
So she's playing him a little bit, almost literally, in the way that they play cards. The moment that I think the movie kind of understands the performance of Charles Laughton the most is in the scenes that he has with Elsa Lanchester in the bedroom. Not like that, calm down. Where they're playing cards.
Well, that's the thing. Like it starts like that, where he comes in after they're married and he's like, listen, you seem a little ditzy.
Yep.
I just want to make sure you're aware of like what we're doing here. I do want a son. And she's like, yeah, no problem. Stork will show up and we're good, right? And he's like, listen.
This reminded me a lot of, was it The Smiling Lieutenant? Where she's like, we could, He's like, I don't follow. And it was like
Right.
2 minutes straight of just her being like trying to find the word sex.
Yes.
Yeah, that reminded me a lot of that too. It's the cards that really are interesting for me because the way that they play this is she is sharking him.
Yeah.
Right? She's so good at cards. He thinks he's the best. And then he has that whole like scene where he's screaming to his assistants to bring in more money. Like, bring more money. You bring it to me because I'm going to win this game. And this is where we start seeing the dynamics between them really shift, where she's playing him and he thinks he's playing her. And ultimately, instead of like her getting one over on him, she ultimately gets what she wants, but she gives him what he wants to, which is freedom.
Right.
To like then marry Catherine instead.
And that's the thing too, is like she forces him to not want her.
Yes.
Because she like makes herself look quote unquote ugly, and she starts acting just absurd, really, so that she approaches him beautiful and, attractive and all of this so that he will marry her. And then once they're married, she's like, hey, now you know the real me. And that whole bit she does is so funny. When she first walks out into that bedroom scene and she kind of slinks out all really creepy like.
Yeah.
From that moment, I was like, Oh, I love Elsa Lanchester.
She's so good in this. And there's a couple things, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's a couple things that I think do paint the picture of what this movie ultimately wants itself to be. And that's the satire that you talked about. This is obviously a big part of that. The other is leading up to this scene in their marriage, King Henry VIII has been seeing Catherine on the side.
Right.
Whether it be romantically or not, he's been going to her bedroom and like talking to her. And there's a scene where he like sneaks into her room. And he gets there and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "No one saw me, I swear." And the camera cuts to outside of the room with like 10 guards just like staring at the door. And I laughed so hard at the cut of this. And that's when I was like, oh, cool. The movie's like finally understanding what it wants, what it needs to be.
Right.
And I loved that scene. And I was kind of expecting more of that. There's not a ton. But that stood out. And I was like, wow, I love that cut. Because it wasn't just like, what a funny cut that they didn't intend. That was 100% intentional.
Right.
And also, that man did not sneak in there because he's walking past all of his guards. Who, by the way, this is the other part that I think they get right, show the, like, it almost felt very Doctor Strangelove, like kind of a commentary on, like, the ludicrous nature of his importance.
Right.
Of whenever they would communicate that something was happening, one guard would shout it, so another one that's 2 rooms away can shout it again, so another guard who's 2 rooms past that can shout it again, and just so on and so forth. And that leads itself to the people that he passes on the way to Catherine's room when he's like, "Don't you dare announce anyone that I'm here." And he sneaks in. I'm like, yeah, but they all saw you. Whether they announced it or not,
right.
There are at least 4 guards who have seen you, and now 10 of them are standing outside of her room just looking at your door. So funny. Thought that was a great cut, and I enjoyed that a good bit. The relationship and the connection, chemistry is the word I'm looking for, between Elsa Lanchester and Charles Laughton was so dynamic. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And I love seeing this. It's also kind of a nice middle finger to the idea of what the, not production code, but like the MPPDA at the time was kind of allowing when it comes to like couples in bedrooms.
Yeah.
In that they are married as characters, but at the same time, these actors are married to each other.
Right.
So it's interesting to be like, well, you can't really show them like in the same bed or anything. And the bed that we're talking about is like them sitting on the bed playing cards with each other. So it's not like a scandalous in any way.
Sure.
But it's such a nice, like, interesting thing that I'm sure wasn't intentional, but it's kind of funny how it worked out. Of the reason you don't do this is because you don't want to show like unmarried people. Well, not only are the characters married, but so are the actors.
Yeah.
Nice touch. The only downside to this is that comes about maybe 60% of the movie. And then shortly after that, the arrangement that they make is for her to go away.
Yeah, they get divorced. And there's that great moment too where he's like, what if I just behead you? And she's like, you won't do that because I'll start drama. And he's like, fair play.
Yeah, good call.
Divorce.
And it's funny because it seems like he isn't willing to budge for anyone or anything. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, all right, fine. What are your terms? And she's like, it's very light. I need these 6 things. And he's like, done. Like, gosh, and it's not just, good. It's not small stuff either. It's like, I need this much money as a retainer. And he's like, done. I need my own castle, essentially. He's like, yeah, of course, done.
Yes.
And it's just immediately, you get everything you want.
Yeah.
And then she just bounces.
She does.
She just takes off, and then that clears everything in his path for Catherine.
Yeah.
Which in his eyes, he has been interested in the marriages, but Catherine is the one.
Right.
So he has been chasing her this whole time. The difficulty here is that she has also established a relationship with Thomas Culpepper.
Exactly.
Even actually before this, but Thomas, I guess this is a detail we haven't gone over just yet, is essentially the right-hand man to Henry VIII.
Yeah, this is scandalous.
Yes, very much so.
And also kind of uninteresting.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I anytime I was watching Catherine, who was played, again, by Benny Barnes, and Thomas Culpepper, anytime they were together, I just did not care. And that goes to show how important Charles Laughton's performance is to any type of success from this movie. They're so dull. They're so boring. I didn't think they had any chemistry, and I just wanted more Charles or Elsa.
Yeah, I agreed. And I think that's the problem, is that the chemistry is so good between Charles and Elsa, but that wasn't the focus.
Yeah.
And I feel like they could have made that more of the focus, and because they do have lightning in a bottle. But again, that's something that happens on screen and not when you're writing the screenplay.
Right.
I get that. But it makes the movie less interesting because, I mean, and as good as Benny Barnes is as Catherine. It just, you can't match the chemistry that he has with Elsa in the terms of like the woman he can't tame.
Yeah.
Which is ultimately the more interesting story for him than just look how difficult it was for you to keep a woman because you were not that appealing and there's more men around you that were more appealing.
Yeah. And it's not something that like you can be mad at the screenplay for because this is historical. You didn't end up with Anne of Cleves.
Sure, totally. You can't change the story.
Yeah.
Totally heard. It's just how it kind of happens.
It's just a bummer. It's
Yeah.
like, man, I wish you would have stayed with Anne.
Well, ultimately, it's like, you're right. You can't change the history of things and you can't change the story of who it's about, but you can add flourishes of like, okay, well, hey, this isn't really working. What can we do about this?
Yeah.
But that's when you have time. And some of these movies, we talk about how often people are starring in like, hey, how many movies did you star in this 1 year? Oh, 20?
Yeah.
Like you're in a ton of movies because these things move quickly.
Yes.
So you don't have the time to kind of be like, hey, this isn't working. What can we do to change that? And I get that.
Yeah.
Now we have a little bit more time of like, hey, give us a little bit more time on this. Let's be more strategic about this and have like, well, instead let's do the camera angle this way, or let's introduce this character that makes this feel this way. This just kind of suffers as a result of that.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to bring up is we skipped over. You talked about Wendy Berry, and she played his second wife.
Third wife.
Or third wife, sorry. Yeah, not Anne Boleyn. Played his third wife. And a thing about this. Did you read about this? What happened on set?
No.
Wonderful. So Charles Laughton was a bit of a method actor, which I wonder how that affected with his scenes with his real-life partner, Elsa Lanchester.
Yeah. Or his consumption of chickens.
Correct. I mean, well, we'll see if he's method afterwards with the restaurants.
Yeah.
A lot of restaurant owners beheaded. So he was method on set. And there's a moment with Wendy Berry where she was like giggling during a scene. And I'm not clear if like she was supposed to giggle or maybe she was giggling at like a line that he said and that was like not scripted. He wasn't happy with this and he actually bit her on the arm.
What?
Yeah, he bit Wendy Berry on the arm and because he had decided that she aggravated him. And the reason he did this is that Henry VIII actually did this with his wives, where he would like bite them on the arm to kind of like, almost like when you, I mean, this is not the proper analogy you should be making, but like when you're trying to scold someone or like scold a dog with like a newspaper, I think that's how Henry VIII saw it, is like, oh, don't do that again, bite you on the arm, or like slap on the hand, right?
Yeah.
Something terrible. So in his method sense, he thought, why don't I continue that? And bit her on the arm. Can't say that's a good look. Can't say I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not loving that.
Pretty bad.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that was something that was cited, and it was something that was caught by Benny Barnes, I think, reported that. So they're just like, yeah, that happened. Terrible thing.
How come every time one of these guys gets nominated for this, huge achievement, they're doing something weird? They're shooting dogs or they're firing.
Fake shooting dogs.
You're right. How could I mislead the public
Right.
with false information?
It's only 1% better, but it is better.
What are we doing?
I would argue that the reason that this continues to happen is that we continue to award it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? Like
That's fair.
Both times that's happened with directors, they won Best Director of that movie.
I like Charles Laughton in this, and now I feel like I can't, which, whatever.
He might have felt bad about it. I'm not going to say he was like,
hope he did.
Yeah. He's not the one who reported this. He was like, yeah, I bit her on the arm. It was
At this point, when I got my free chicken, I'd start biting the waiter's arms just to keep up and be like, look, it wasn't anything personal.
Well, that's the way that you determine that it never happens again, right? Like,
Yeah.
This is my 10th rotisserie chicken of the week. I'm going to bite this guy in the arm so I never get another
They start
rotisserie
throwing the chickens into the room, and they're like, good luck, Charles.
I got to tell you, that is a funny joke. And I don't know if I cited this earlier. That's why the restaurant owners did it, is they thought it was a very funny joke that like they could keep doing this. That's a very expensive joke to me.
It is. I also love the idea of him going to like a Wendy's and then being like, somebody run to Costco.
Exactly. I need you to run to Costco right now and pick up a rotisserie chicken.
It's Dave Thomas. He's like, no, he's back.
He's like, look, my daughter, Wendy, if you run and go do this, I'll name the chain after you.
Yeah.
She's like, done.
Pigtails flying in the wind.
Good bit of lore. Look at us. I also kind of want to do a little behind the scenes before we talk about the rest of it. So this is not the last time that Charles Laughton reprises the role of Henry VIII.
Oh, yeah.
He also did this in Young Bess in 1953. Kind of a nice touch. It's not like a sequel to this. It's just kind of reprising the character.
Yeah.
But we talk a lot about like these movies where there are radio broadcasts done of it, like, 10, 15 years later, and the cast, at least some of them, comes back and reprises the role. this is one of the only times I think where we've seen a character reprised on screen by the same actor.
Yeah.
Let alone one notable like this.
Yeah, and really the only time you ever see that in general are for sequels.
True.
Like who is it? It's like Michael Keaton was in Jackie Brown, and then he comes back in another role playing the same character, but like it's a different studio, it's a different director, and I can't remember what that is, but like those are the weird moments of like almost like crossovers.
Sure. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see this happen a ton. This is also one of the first times this has happened, obviously.
Yeah.
But kind of cool to see that it did a character in a role like this that is that, I guess, iconic.
Sure.
Is the best way to put it. Iconic makes it sound like, slay. But I don't mean it that way. He ate. I mean, Henry VIII. It's more just the import of that character in that performance.
Right.
So it's interesting to see that reprised that way. The other thing that I want to note here is that we talked about how this is a British film. This is London Film specifically that did it, British cast. This was kind of a smoke, what's the word I'm looking for? Smoke signal. This was kind of a sign to Hollywood that there is like an excess of British talent. So this is one of the key factors in this awareness and exodus of talent from UK to Hollywood. So they actually brought a lot of UK talent into Hollywood specifically because of this movie, because it did serve as an awareness of how much talent there was overseas.
Sure.
Now, Charles Laughton is a big part of that, but I'm sure the chemistry of Elsa Lanchester as well, and certainly the performances that we talked about, Merle Oberon, who portrayed Anne Boleyn. She's incredible. Yeah, I mean, she's so effective. And Binnie Barnes as Catherine Howard. She's a lot of the emotional grounding of the movie.
She is. And like she has a moment where she sings for the king. She actually has a musical number, and it's a good song. She sounds great. So yeah, I mean, she's kind of supposed to represent like the ultimate beauty and the ultimate love for the king. And they do a good job at like showcasing her as this very desirable woman, especially when she shows up after Elsa Lanchester, who's just being she's so silly goofy. That's what I wrote in my review. I'm like, shout out to Elsa, just being a silly goofy girl.
Yeah, and she does do a great job of that. I enjoyed her performance a lot. To me, it feels kind of like when you have like a Looney Tunes intermission.
Yeah.
When it's like, I had a lot of fun in between this movie with the cartoon. And Elsa Lanchester is that cartoon.
Absolutely.
And then we get back to the high drama.
Yes. We should call out, too, for anyone who doesn't know Elsa Lanchester, she is eventually the bride of Frankenstein. So if you watch this and you recognize her face a little bit, she'll be screaming in about 2 years. So,
wow, I never picked up that she was the bride of Frankenstein.
Really?
The name sounds so familiar, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But no, I never picked that up.
Well, there you go. And that's a good
I know
example.
Charles Laughton was like, you gotta make me Frankenstein's monster.
Already did, bud. Already did. But yeah, there's an example right there of, the exodus to Hollywood, and Elsa shows up on the doorstep of Universal in 1935 with James Whale, and she's the bride of Frankenstein, her most iconic role.
Wow. So that's really cool. It's not the last we'll see of her.
No. Well, maybe on the podcast.
No, not you and I, though.
Yeah. No. Please.
Please. Yeah, so, that leads to kind of the crux of the movie, and the crux is that he has this fight in the banquet scene, or not the banquet scene, but in the banquet, he has this fight where he wrestles another individual.
Yeah, he's like defending his honor.
Yeah,
because
he's kind of challenged.
Yes, he's having a conversation with Catherine, and they're talking about Thomas Culpeper, and she's like, "He's so strong." He's like, "Yeah, he's pretty strong, but
he's not me,
not this strong." And he like eats another chicken, and
yeah, but how many rotisserie chickens can he eat with his bare hand though?
Exactly. That scene where he has a chicken in front of him and he starts like pounding it to flatten the meat, and all of the people around him at the table are very discreetly like wiping chicken juice off their face. That was pretty good.
Yeah, you're right that there's like a little bit of satire in there of like how absurd that these people had to like live among him. But again, the camera just does not want to capture those things as well or like focus on it as much. It's more the background.
Yeah.
And maybe that's more on me, but it's just that brought on me not feeling as connected to the story and what it was trying to say. But so he starts this, he has this wrestling match with this individual, which gets him very tired and worked up, and he ends up having a medical condition where the doctor... Did you catch the doctor's name?
I did not.
Dr. Butts.
Oh, yes. That's right.
She was like, call Dr. Butts. And I was like, this is really funny. Like, I was watching on Tubi. So and with some of these films, especially when the restoration is not fantastic, I try to have the captions on so I can like really see what they're saying. I can't hear my stories without my closed captions, so to speak.
Right.
And when she said Dr. Butts, I was like, oh, that's funny. I wonder what the name really was. That was Dr. Butts.
Yeah, 100%. With an S or a Z?
S.
Oh, wow. They went.
And it wasn't even Buttes. It was Butts. It was like just straight up Dr. Butts. Great.
I love it. Could have been SZ or $.
Dollar sign would have been revolutionary for the time.
He's a plastic surgeon doctor.
Like Millionaires, but with the dollar sign. Yeah. Shout out to all my friends who caught the Millionaires reference from 2000s. I see you and I respect you. So Dr. Butts shows up and he's like, yeah, look, you need some rest, man. You're just completely out of it. You're okay.
Right, because they have the fight and King Henry wins.
Right.
But as he walks back to the table, he's like, wasn't that great?
He's like, that was a breeze.
Yeah.
It falls over. So he needs rest and he needs to go to his room. And all of this is an excuse for him to go to his bed and have like the curtains up and everything while Thomas Culpepper is in the room with Catherine. And they have this conversation of like, we can't keep doing this. Like there is no end game to this that ends up well.
This is very Disraeli coded.
I think that's my disdain for this is that so much of it feels like it's hinged on his performance.
Yeah.
Although I'm not going to do the thing where I'm like, this is just Disraeli, because Elsa Lanchester is proof alone. But also Merle Oberon and Benny Barnes, how he is not stealing the scenes from these women. Like they are having their chance to like captivate the screen, and they do.
Yeah.
So it's not Disraeli, but it does suffer a little bit from the melodrama of that, and it doesn't have the commentary of the satire to kind of like the camera work doesn't have, nor the direction has the satire there to differentiate. So there are times that feel like Disraeli. I'm with you on that. And this is one of them where it's like, you couldn't have picked another room.
Well, I mostly meant he's a sick boy.
Little
now.
sick boy.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Curtains are drawn.
There's also like a fire. I mean, granted, just because you have a fire doesn't mean it's Disraeli, but being in a room with the little sick boy and having this conversation with a fire.
Yeah.
Is very Disraeli.
Kind of eavesdropping too.
Yeah. And then there's the whole drama of like them having this moment and then they kiss. And while they're like embracing each other, you can hear King Charles has woken up, or King Henry has woken up.
Charles showed up out of nowhere.
Henry wakes up and calls for Catherine.
Yeah. And
there's a great like sudden look from both of them. Kind of reminded me of Paul Muni in I Am a Fugitive from a Chain Gang when his partner at the time reads his letter without him knowing. It's like, yeah, I guess it's better than being on a chain gang, huh? And there's a camera cut of his face like cutting and looking. They're both doing a little bit of that. But this leads to someone having seen Thomas and Catherine together.
A lot of people haven't seen.
A lot of people have been seeing it.
That's another example of like the dark humor where one of Henry's confidants shows up and he's like, sir, I got something to tell you, but you got to be chill. And he's like, tell me. And he's like, well, you seem a little tense, so maybe I'll wait. And he's like, tell me. He just freaks out.
I'm not tense.
Yeah. And he's like, listen, somebody saw Catherine with another man. And he's
Someone
like,
saw Goody Proctor.
yeah. And like grabs him by the throat and like slams him on the table. And he's like, oh. And he's like, ah. Starts listing off like 37 different people. And it's...
Because he doesn't think it's...
Man.
Yeah.
The whole movie really is supposed to be you watching Henry VIII and just pointing and going, ha, ha, ha,
yeah.
What a baby. And like that's the dark comedy bit of it, I think. You know, your mileage may vary on whether you giggle and laugh at him being just a detestable baby of a king, or you're just like, this guy sucks.
And that, I fall in the latter camp.
Yeah.
The latter camp for me, it was less like, oh yeah, what a comedic performance done by Charles Laughton to give this character like, you know, the satire that it needed. It really is more just, I think a lot of people would walk away from this movie being like, what an incredible performance by Charles Laughton playing the ever popular Henry VIII. Like,
right.
Yeah, it's not really what this is.
This felt a lot to me like Don't Look Up.
Sure.
That movie did not jive with me at all.
Yeah.
And it's because of that satire, and you're supposed to watch just the most detestable people in like positions of power and laugh at it. And I think especially political satire. Like, I struggle a lot with that because I'm just like, maybe it's the climate we live in now where I'm just like, we don't need this. We get it.
Yeah.
Ha hee. Let's move on. Let's fix some things. And there's a little bit of that here where you're watching just this man be awful to not only everybody in his entire kingdom, but especially the women. And you're just like, I don't know if I can laugh at this for much longer.
Yeah, I think the problem is that it has a very dry sense of humor, which it makes sense. You know, a lot of the humor that comes from like London and England specifically does tend to be a bit drier. So there's a real chance that this was like misunderstood in the U.S. and by myself as well. Mm-hmm. But the history of this also shows that this was very much a celebration of his performance, Charles Laughton.
Which is good.
It is good. It's a good performance, but I think it takes the wrong lessons from it.
Yeah.
Not saying anyone got beheaded because of this movie and they're like, yeah, Henry VIII was right. But they're celebrating the dramatic performance of it and not the comedic performance of it.
Right. You're watching this awful guy and the intention is to be like, ha, that Henry VIII, instead of being like, wow, this guy was awful.
Yeah, exactly. And both could be true, both reactions.
Yeah.
But it's not one that's conveyed very clearly.
Yes.
And to me, the way this kind of wraps up is in the final scene that he has, and he ends up sharing it with Elsa Lanchester. Or at least one of the last scenes. Is that not right?
No, it's not Elsa. She's gone. She's out of the movie.
I thought it was Anna Cleves.
No.
Yeah.
She's skedaddle. She's chilling in her castle penthouse by herself. What it is Catherine and Thomas get beheaded once they're discovered.
Right.
And he is distraught about this. And he stays single for a long time because he's lost his true love, or who he believes is
to a point where when we catch up with him, he has a lot of gray in his hair.
Yes.
Much older.
Yes. And he meets his sixth wife, and that's who he spends this scene with.
Understood.
This is Catherine Parr, which he has a moment where when he meets her, she's like, oh, hi, my name's Catherine. And she's like the nanny kind of the castle. Mm-hmm. And one of his servants or something is like, hey, you know who'd be good for you? This woman that's taking care of kids. You have kids. That might work. You're kind of a kid. That'll work too. When he learns her name's Catherine, he's like, oh, my love, Catherine.
It's interesting. I kind of want to push back. I almost thought that the woman who's telling him that, because they're at the window and he looks out the window at her suggesting, I thought this is Elsa because she suggests that she was the fourth wife. Because he's like, my first wife was this, my second wife was that, my third wife was this, my fourth wife was great, but my fifth wife was this. And she's like, the problem was that she was not young, or she was young, and you need to like mature. So
you know what?
I thought this
really
was Elsa.
don't know.
Because when you said servant, I was like, no, I'm pretty sure this was one of his wives. Because he was like, hey, it's so great to see you again. How have you been? Like, you know, we had a divorce. That's what I thought. I could totally be wrong on that. But
I could be wrong too.
I thought that was his, that was the importance, was like he was kind of noting, hey, what we had, like, ultimately wasn't going to work out. But like, look how we were able to separate this.
Yeah.
And it was him kind of like looking back longingly at his relationships. So almost to a point where if it was a servant, that scene is less important to me because it's less of him like reconciling a little bit.
Yeah.
But also, I kind of need you to explain to me what she was suggesting, whether it was the servant or Elsa Lanchester. I kind of need you to explain to me what she was suggesting, because it definitely sounded like you should hook up with one of the young nannies instead.
Well, I think it is an older woman.
You're right.
Yeah. Catherine, what is it? Catherine Parr,
right,
played by Everly Gregg. And I really think what it is it's like, look, this is a woman who's taking care of the children. You're kind of a big baby. Like, she doesn't say that, but that's kind of the nurturer that he needs. Yeah, and that leads to him being with his sixth wife and sets up the punchline at the end of the movie, which I don't like. Ultimately, he's being cared for by Catherine, and she's very nagging to him. She's like, okay, you've had dinner, time for your nap. And he like reaches over to eat some more chicken, and she's like, no, chicken disagrees with you. You can't have that. And he's just like, let me live my life. And as soon as she leaves, he runs over from his nap. He gets up from the bed, runs over and starts gnawing on another chicken. And he has a moment where he breaks the fourth wall, and he says, 6 wives, and the best of them's the worst.
Yeah.
The end. And it's supposed to be like what's the word? Summarization of his life and his relationship with his wives and how he feels about his wives towards the end of his life.
Yeah, I guess what I also got that punchline from him at the end, and it kind of was delivered more like a Rodney Dangerfield, like,
Yes.
You know, the women in my life, like this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, especially talking about it with you, I understand more what it was trying to go for. And I appreciate like having these conversations so I can pick that up a bit more where I didn't get in the movie. It is just a tough hang if you're not fully on board with what it is.
Yeah.
And it was difficult for me, not a tough hang in the sense of like, oh, this is a really problematic movie. It was just more difficult to get past when some of the best parts happen halfway through.
Sure.
And that's Elsa Lanchester. Like their chemistry is unreal how good it is. And it just doesn't carry on.
Yeah, and to back that up, even beyond their chemistry, Elsa Lanchester is just such a bizarre character in this that she's a blast to watch.
She almost feels like she came from 1960s or 1950s. Like she time traveled.
Yeah.
She seems like a time traveler because she's not just from a different place. It seems like she's from a different time.
And
which is a lot of fun to watch. It's just kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah. She's super cool. I like her a lot.
She is super cool.
But no, I agree with you. I think that the tone in this movie, maybe it's lost to time a little bit.
Long to time, yeah.
Yeah, like the way that you're supposed to digest this movie, like we just don't have that ability in 2026.
Yeah.
I will say, like the highlights of the movie, obviously Charles Lawton and Elsa Lanchester. Merle Oberon, she's great. The performances of a lot of the characters are great. I think the set design is pretty cool. There are a lot of shots outside as well. They're like duck or pheasant hunting or something. And the wide shots there are really cool. Seeing just, I don't know, the outdoors. Yippee. And then the castle design and things. That all looks great. And the costumes. Henry looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, costuming's good. Production design is good too. There's some outdoor scenes specifically with like the horse riding. Just want to say, as like a compliment to the movie, far away are we from the in old Arizona of like how we capture these scenes on camera. I'm not gonna say it's the most beautiful thing in the world, but you can hear everything very clearly when they're riding in distance.
Yeah.
So very cool. That's the scene where he finds out that he's having a boy, and he's like, "It's a boy," and they all travel to the castle.
Man, you know, that's a very small call out of how good his performance is. After he gets off the horse from the long journey and he's talking to the doctor and he's like, "How's my boy?" And he's just completely out of breath. Props to you, Charles Lawton.
I mean, it's a good performance. I don't intend to. I don't mean to make it sound like I'm dogging his performance at all. I think it's just a mismatch. Like it's hard to kind of read what the story was trying to, or the movie was trying to tell you.
And it's hard to root for the villain, I think.
Of course, yeah, that's always a big thing too. But his performance is great. Obviously, awarded very highly for this nomination. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, mixed bag for me.
Yeah, totally. I totally understand that. I don't know why I did that.
I was going to say, is that a pun?
that was me being jolly, like King Henry. So yeah, my rating for this was very middle of the road, and I always say that when I give it above middle of the road. But 3 stars for it. I think I had more fun with it than you did. Again, I struggle a little bit with like the regality stories,
Period pieces.
not even period pieces, because I'm okay with the time setting.
Oh, it's the royal aspect of it.
Yes.
Okay, copy.
But yeah, I think his performance was fun enough for me when I wasn't just completely disgusted by his behavior. And I just really like Elsa Lanchester a lot. So 3 stars for me.
I was going down the casting list on Letterboxd looking for Dr. Butts, and I can't find him. But promise you that's the name. Yeah, I was lower on this. I was 2 stars.
Oh, 2.
I can't say I cared for this too much. It just kind of felt like a chore to get through more than an enjoyment factor. His performance is notable, but to me it was just kind of loud, boisterous, playing a fool. And if I had hung out with Charles Lawton a lot, maybe it'd be like, oh wow, what a great performance, because he's such a distinguished man.
Yeah.
It's just difficult to get through. And I think I was sensing a really big peak with the Elsa Lanchester scenes, and then it just kind of went back downhill, so it was hard for me to kind of even give it extra credit for that.
Yeah.
I had more interest in reading the behind the scenes of this than anything in the movie, so whenever that happens, I tend to go a little bit lower too. But yeah, not a big fan. 2 stars. I mean, certainly there's some credits to the movie, and Charles Lawton's performance, my God, you're just ruining this whole thing with dropping stuff. His performance is of note and worth watching for that alone. Yeah. And to reiterate your point, Criterion Channel and Tubi, free on Tubi, paid subscription with Criterion Channel. Worth watching when you can catch that.
It's had a physical release on Criterion as well.
It has, yeah. Been looking for that. Can't say it's very high on my list right now, but nice to have a completionist side of it.
I think it's part of a set as well. I don't know what set.
I don't think it's an individual. I think you're right.
Yeah.
can look that up.
It might be a Lawton set, because I think it is a lot of like period pieces and things. While you look that up, I'm going to go ahead and get into my double feature.
Please.
I went with a film I saw in theaters, like back when I was in middle school, I think. And I didn't fully grasp it at the time, but it did stick with me to where I was familiar with King Henry because of this, and also like Anne Boleyn and some of his other wives. So obviously it had some effect on me. And that is the Natalie Portman, Scarlett Johansson, and Eric Bana film, The Other Boleyn Girl. Have we done it?
This is mine.
We've done it.
We've done it.
We've done it.
The 2008 film directed by Justin Chadwick.
Yeah.
Yeah, we finally did it.
We did it.
Look at us. We did it, Joe.
You know, kind of obvious, I think.
I think so. I mean, when you look at the kind of retelling of Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII, I would say two very different categorizations of Henry VIII.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Eric Bana. Do you do Bana?
I do Bana.
Like banana, but Bana?
Yeah.
I guess
Eric
that makes a lot
Bana.
of sense. Yeah, Eric Bana.
Yeah.
So Eric Bana.
Bruce Bana.
Eric Bana does not change his look very much for his performance of Henry VIII.
No,
and
he
Other
doesn't.
Boleyn Girl, he's just very attractive. Very different take.
Sure.
And I think that in a movie that wants to kind of study what looks like the story of Anne Boleyn, very minorly compared to Henry VIII, it's nice to see a movie that kind of tackles a little bit more of Anne Boleyn's story and also, you know, her sister, Scarlett Johansson.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was kind of an obvious one for me too, so it's not surprising.
No,
I didn't
yeah.
think about it, but it's not surprising now.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to go with a story that kind of told this tale in a more serious tone because, you know, historically, this is a big deal. This guy was awful to women. He's kind of one of many of the poster childs of, hey, men suck. King Henry VIII, am I right?
You're right. E8. So it is available physically from Criterion, but only in the Eclipse Series 16, which is the Eclipse series that we also have for
Lubitsch.
Ernst Lubitsch. But this one is 16, and it is Alexander Korda's Private Lives.
Ah, okay.
DVD box set, not currently available on Blu-ray, but same thing with Lubitsch. Lubitsch was the Eclipse series was on DVD, later released on Blu-ray. So there is a chance this can come out on Blu-ray later, but it is available in that collection on DVD.
Gotcha. Good to know.
I'm not going to seek it out right now, but nice to look out for.
Yeah, and, you know, I imagine there's quite a few Charles Lawton performances in there. I don't know for sure. Just an assumption.
Yeah, I was having trouble finding what movies were included in that, so I'll double check that. But that is the series that exists.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about 42nd Street and how there was also another Busby Berkeley musical nominated this year.
Right.
Charles Lawton was in another big film that was nominated for cinematography this year. And that's another period piece, The Sign of the Cross, which I started watching, and that's going to do a number on me. But
Sign of the Cross?
yeah.
Interesting.
Cecil B. DeMille. So it's one of
Mr.
those big,
DeMille.
like, exactly. But yeah, that's The Private Life of Henry VIII. Let us know what you thought of it. Did you like Charles Lawton in it? Did you think it was worthy of Best Picture? Or is it just one of those, like, yeah, this happened. This was a history thing. I don't want it.
Guess which one we are?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think we're kind of on both sides of the coin.
Yeah, we're kind of split right down the middle, I think.
Right.
But if you'd like to give us your thoughts, shoot us an email at outaopodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show financially, check out patreon.com/outaopodcast. And stay tuned for next episode where we will be covering our first Frank Capra directed film, Lady for a Day.
Yep. How did we feel about it? Let's see.
Let's find out. That's available. I think you have to hunt for a little bit. Video on demand, or there is physical releases of it as well.
This is tough. I should have done the inverse of what I normally do because I do own, really excited to talk about this on the next episode, I do own the collection of Capra films.
Yeah.
So I have those available on Blu-ray, so I didn't even look to see how you could watch it.
Sure.
But if you can get your hands on it, the Capra collection does have Lady for a Day and all the others on there, so it is well worth your time to seek out.
Yeah. So check that out if you can. But until next time, I'm Kyle.
I'm Ryan.
And we'll see you at the movies.